Hi everyone, welcome to another walkthrough video from BC FactBase. Today we're going to look at what the BC government is doing with your money. Specifically, I want to address three questions. Is government spending going up or going down? How does government spending in BC compare with that of the other provinces? And what parts of government drive spending? So let's dive in. First, a few things to say about this chart. Unfortunately, the data only goes to 2009, so it is a bit dated. We'll look at some more recent data towards the end of the video. Secondly, you'll notice a few weird spikes in the chart. These are due to big one-time payments from other levels of government, so I'm not going to be talking about those. What this chart shows us is how much each provincial government spent per year per person, so it takes into account differences in population size. And just with a quick glance, we can get a pretty good answer to our first two questions. Yes, government spending is increasing, pretty much across the board. In BC, we can see that from 1989 to 2009, government spending increased by about $2,000 per person. We can also see the answer to question 2. BC has low government spending compared to other provinces. Only Ontario spends less per person according to these numbers. So what about question 3? What parts of government drove spending in this time period? Well, let's keep in mind that spending per person in BC increased by about $2,000, and let's see if we can account for that. This chart allows us to isolate spending by type. So let's start by selecting health, and we'll switch off total spending. You can see pretty clearly that health spending has increased steadily in every province, and that BC has worked its way to the bottom of the pack here. Spending per person has gone from $1,700 to $2,700, an increase of $1,000 per person. So this accounts for about half of the total increase in government spending. Now let's look at education. Spending per person in BC has gone from $1,000 to $1,600. So that's another $600 increase. So increased spending in health and education alone account for 80% of the total increase in government spending. Now how about our debt? Well, what do you know? What we have to pay to maintain our debt every year has actually declined, and it's done the same in most other provinces. How about social assistance, which covers things like welfare? Well, we can see that there's been a lot of fluctuation here, but we wind up pretty much where we started off, at a bit more than $500 per person. So there's no real increase here. We could go on, but if you're very curious about the other areas, I invite you to check out the chart for yourself on the main website. Let's look at one more chart that gives us some more current numbers and also a bit of a different perspective. This chart represents all government spending in the 2013 fiscal year, broken down by ministry. Can you guess which section is healthcare? Yeah, it's the big one at $16.5 billion. Next up is education at $5.4 billion, followed by social assistance at $2.5 billion. You can click around this chart to get more details if you want to, but mostly I'm showing it just to illustrate how much health and education dominate the provincial budget. And just as we saw, they keep getting bigger and bigger over time. So let's review a bit. The numbers show us that government spending is indeed rising in BC. That said, BC has the second lowest spending per person out of all the provinces. And in the timeline we looked at, 80% of that spending increase came from health and education alone. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you understand government spending in BC a bit better. Questions and comments are welcome. Many thanks for watching, and please do visit the main website where you'll find all kinds of charts to explore, as well as many ways to subscribe.